The viral phrase, "no sudden death during work hours. Please reply to confirm," emerged from the public backlash over the death of Gao Guanghui, a 32-year-old IT engineer in China. It sounds like a joke, but behind the humor is deep anger at an irrational, brutal work culture. Today, I want to use this phrase as a starting point to seriously talk about China's toxic overtime culture. Hi everyone, I'm Lino. Welcome to my channel. If you've ever worked in China, especially in internet tech, finance, media, or advertising, you probably have a physical, almost instinctive fear of the word overtime. In China, overtime is never called overtime. It has nicer sounding names. It's called struggle. It's called hard work. It's called a blessing. It's called young people should endure more hardship. But here's the real question. Why is it always young people who are expected to suffer? And why is it always the bosses who take the rewards? 996 is no secret anymore. 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. Then it evolved into 007, 12 a.m. off, 12 a.m. on, 7 days a week, always online. Eventually, the very concept of off work disappeared. If WeChat is on, you are on. If your phone has battery, you're still alive, which means you're still expected to work. That's exactly my situation. On the surface, I have weekends. But in reality, I constantly check my phone, constantly ready to open my laptop and respond to work. Years ago, I even started experiencing auditory hallucinations. And this is why Gao Guanghui's case hit so hard. Because it exposed this reality in the most brutal way possible. On the morning of Saturday, November 29, 2025, Gao Guanghui woke up feeling unwell. He soon collapsed and experienced loss of bladder control. Yet, before being taken to the hospital, he still told his wife, "Bring the laptop." He was planning to continue working even while hospitalized. For hours later, after emergency resuscitation failed, he was pronounced dead. His medical record noted a history of frequent late nights and heavy workload as a programmer. During emergency treatment that same morning, at 10:48 a.m., he was added into a new work-related technical group chat. A colleague messaged him, "Engineer Gao, please help handle this order." At 9:09 p.m. that evening, 8 hours after his death, he still received another private work message. "There's an urgent task on Monday. We need to modify this." Even after death, the system kept running. The messages kept coming. Because in some corporate cultures, people are no longer human beings. They are just replaceable work nodes. Phone records showed that Gao logged into his company's internal OA system 5 times that Saturday. But the exact timestamps were hidden. His wife, Ms. Yang, said the company deliberately concealed back-end access logs, making it impossible to determine whether he had worked in the early morning. Evidence that was crucial for authorities to determine whether his death qualified as a work-related injury. She also recalled that after his collapse, she briefly saw his phone screen frozen on a company login page. But in her panic, she swiped it away. Later, the company claimed there were no back-end records. The Human Resources and Social Security Bureau reportedly told her, "If the company does not cooperate, it is highly likely the claim will not be approved." 6 days after his death, the company offered the family 390,000 yuan, labeled as humanitarian compensation. Ms. Yang said bluntly, "This is basically the N+1 severance pay you give when firing an employee. This hush money. They told me that if I caused negative publicity for the company, I would owe them 500,000 yuan. I was forced to sign. Let that sink in. A man worked until his final moments. Died. And the system's response was not accountability, but legal maneuvering and silence buying. And yet, after tragedies like this, what we usually see is not reflection, but the familiar 3-step blame shift. He already had health problems. It was his personal choice. We didn't force overtime. Young people need better self-management. Translation: he's dead, but the company is not responsible. Chinese workplace logic is deeply twisted. If you work overtime, that's expected. If you don't, you lack professionalism. If you burn out, you're too weak. If you die, it's a personal tragedy, unrelated to the system. This logic perfectly protects corporations while completely consuming human beings. What's even more frightening is that many people have been conditioned to believe this is normal. Your boss texts you at 11 p.m. You must reply instantly. You get dragged into meetings on weekends. You must act enthusiastic. You take a sick day and feel guilty, as if you've betrayed the company. Over time, people become like this. Their bodies are exhausted. Their emotions are collapsing. Their minds are numb. Yet they still say, well, the economy is bad. Everyone's like this. Just endure it, it'll pass. But the truth is, this is not short-term endurance. This is long-term, slow suicide. On a broader level, this overtime culture is part of China's so-called low human rights advantage. Companies trade extreme work hours for lower costs. Society trades individual health for so-called development speed. And individuals become the cheapest, quietest, most disposable parts of the machine. When a society starts using dark humor like no sudden death during work hours to cope, what does that tell us? It means people are already suffering to the extreme. Humor is the last way to stay sane. This is not a joke. It's an accusation. This is not comedy. It's despair disguised as humor. Some people respond with, isn't it the same abroad? Don't Americans, Japanese, Koreans also work overtime? Yes, no country is completely free of workplace pressure. But the difference is this. In many countries, overtime is the exception. It is compensated. It is legally protected. In China, overtime is the default. It's expected. It's something you're supposed to be grateful for. I once worked at a multinational company. Foreign companies in China are known for offering the best benefits. They had strict rules. No overtime allowed. But Chinese ingenuity always finds a way around the rules. People would clock out and then return to their desks to keep working. Think about how absurd that is. Foreign management sets rules to protect employees. Chinese managers, in the name of efficiency, find creative ways to push their own people harder. Recently, a team leader at Tesla's Shanghai factory was fired after encouraging workers to increase overtime to boost production. See? At this point, it's not even foreigners exploiting us anymore. We've mastered the art of exploiting ourselves. When overtime is romanticized as fundul, struggle. When sacrificing health is packaged as responsibility. When systemic exploitation is reframed as personal choice. Then this issue is no longer about whether you're hardworking or not. We are not against work. What we are against is performance built on sacrificed dignity. KPIs built on destroyed health. Workplace order maintained through silence and obedience. A normal society should not rely on young people dying to function. A healthy workplace should not treat still alive as the basic KPI. So next time you see the phrase, no sudden death during work hours, please reply. Don't just laugh and scroll past. That's ordinary people using their last bit of humor to resist an inhumane system. If you've experienced similar work culture, share your story in the comments. Let more people understand. The problem is not that you're not working hard enough. The problem is that this game was rigged from the very beginning. See you next time.